right, let's talk about getting ready for homeschool and especially focus today on homeschooling a middle schooler because this is such an interesting age. I don't know about you, but my first middle schooler is getting ready to be complete with middle school. And then I have another one getting ready to start middle school. But it was an interesting stage for me. What about you? Like, what did you think about that? The homeschool tutorial gives me a lot of guidance and a lot of support. And so some of these are book suggestions that they had, and some of them are books that I was just like, I hope he's really going to love this. Once again, coming from my level of passion, but these books do have a lot of good feedback and a lot of good reviews. So once again, this is not just my opinion, like you're going to see these books for yourself. And I think they're just wonderful. The other thing that I have is you're going to want a good notebook, and your kid may have a preference on the style of notebook that they want. I'm showing you personally my preference in a notebook. This is what I use for journaling. But I'm also going to show you why it could be very beneficial for homeschooling. The thing that I like about this particular notebook, so you see this is a tab and you're like, yeah. But these tabs come out. And so you can then open up your hardbound notebook and it comes in different colors, but you can find your section. So depending on how you want to space out your middle school subjects, one, they may not take a whole bunch of notes in something. Another one, they may want, more journaling space. And all I do is just lay it there and press, like run my finger down the spine, and now it's in place. It is so simple to reassign these tabs. You get 5 of these tabs and they're in different colors. And they say that this is waterproof. I've not tested that. But it is hard. It is got a grip to it. And so I like good notebooks like this that we can collect and hold on to. And same thing for when you have your white paper. Okay, let's take a look at some of these books. This book is U.S. history. And I'm not somebody who gets super excited about history until I started to discover these 2 books that I'm going to show you. So this is one of them. So this is Everything You Need to Know book, and it's a series because there's other books in here. Everything You Need to Know World History. This is U.S. history. Everything You Need to Know Math, English, computer science. And so it's saying that if you took this as a subject at school, these are all the topics that you're going to cover. So I think back to middle school and history, and I just did not enjoy it. But I also didn't have this kind of a book. So let me show you one of these lessons and how it looks. First of all, can you tell a difference between a traditional textbook and how this is laid out? The style of it is made to look handwritten, but it's I've been a graphic designer at stages in my career, and I can really appreciate the order and the development, the style of this book, and just how stunning it is because it's easy to go through and see the graphics as they place graphics in here to help explain things. It's cute and it's easy to read. So here's something with a lot more text, but they still break it up. It doesn't feel daunting. And I think that's what I want. So once again, I have somebody who's a resistant reader. And so doing middle school history in a way that it's easy for me to review, me to go through the content, me to then share the content with him. This is so fun. So this was one of the books that was recommended for a class. It was like a logic and theory something class. And this was one of the books that they recommended. And I was like, the Fallacy Detective. What is this going to be about? And so a fallacy is just an error in the way of thinking, error in logic. And so it doesn't logically make sense. It's a fallacy. And it's let's get to a lesson. And so it will give you a lesson, and the lesson usually starts with a story because it's helping you to understand the concept. And so it's about teaching your kid the way that other people say things, even the way that you might hear media, social media, you might hear other people and resources talking about things. And they don't actually address a point, and they don't actually give you a logical flow. This is how this explains it. It's giving you all these different examples. So what would be a weak analogy be? Well, that's going to set you up to understand when somebody is like giving you an analogy to explain something, but it's not actually covering the actual point that you're asking them about. That's like to have this kind of a book that one sets the precedent, like sets what it's about, gives you an explanation of one of these concepts. So there's 38 different concepts that you're going to go through. So it gives you these. So it says the fallacy of a weak analogy claims that some items with only minor similarities are the same in almost everything else. And it teaches you about understanding absolutes. It teaches you about making assumptions. It teaches you, like, there's so many different concepts. I don't even know that I'm doing it true justice in how I'm explaining it. But when I've read these, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. I love that we're having these kind of conversations. Here's what I will say with this book. Him doing it on his own, even though like the writing to me doesn't seem that overly complex, it's just the concept. It's a different way of thinking. You're having to think about how other people are communicating, how other people are explaining things. That's the idea here. We would read it and then I would discuss it with him so that make sure he gets it and he gets the concept. So all that to say, if you want your kid to be a deeper thinker, an understander, to be able to hear something that somebody says and somebody is saying it without actual justification, this is a really good basis for starting to understand how we can articulate, how we can communicate, and then how we can receive and hear what other people are saying and help to break it down without just getting triggered, without getting so emotionally upset about it. Sometimes you'll hear things and you're like, and you're like, I know that's not true. And you might start an argument, but you have to break down and say, oh, they really don't have any facts here. It's not worth my time to even argue this point. That's my take on things. And this book is just another resource that I can add in order to be able to help them. Besides just me saying all the things, we have a resource guide that we can go through with that. Let me grab a drink of water. So I think that's great. So here's another book that our tutorial program suggested. And remember, I told you I'm not a big fan of history. So that's why I found this particular book. And I did my own research and I went and found this book. And then the school tutorial program recommended this book. This is really interesting because this is an understanding of how we, as a new country, in establishing the Declaration of Independence, like why we did, our founding fathers, why they did what they did. I say we weren't around yet, but you know what I mean? Like the basic roots of understanding our American history and how we were forming and becoming a country and what mattered. So it's really interesting. One of the stories in here has to do with, because it presents the different people who got to sign the Constitution, and what they were going through as they were forming the different colonies, and then ultimately the colonies becoming states. And it's like this essence of us, our formation as a country, as the United States of America. There's so many different things that are in here that I just like, I had no idea of. So you can kind of see like this is straight up more textbook style. Unlike the other books that I showed you that were broken down a little bit more and had more graphic design elements to it, this is more of a textbook style. But it is, even though there's a lot here, it's broken down into shorter chunks so you can just take it segment by segment. And one of the interesting stories that I picked up that I like remember is, you know how they say, give me your John Hancock, right? Which means give me your signature, sign something. Why do we say that? That's covered in the book because John Hancock was the first guy to sign the Declaration of Independence. And what they sent out to the people only had his signature shown, and he signed it very large, and he signed it very large for a reason. And they cover that particular reason in the book. And they tell that story and that element. And so it brings our history to life. And so you're getting an understanding of the people, what they were going through, what they were, their factor, their state of mind, but also we get a bigger picture view of like how we were formed, why this mattered. Why did we do the Declaration of Independence? And I think that's a really cool thing. And we just cannot take that for granted. And I think a lot of times we really do. And so this is a good basis for you starting to understand, the history of our country. Okay, before I dive into that, I wanted to show you. let's use this book. Let's go back to this book as an example. Depending on where you're at and how you're set up. Like right now, I'm sitting in my dining room. You can see I have some lights in the background, and then I have this major overhead light on. I I turn the overhead light on for special occasions and for filming video like I am right now. But normally that light is not going to be on, and I have all these lamps throughout my house because I really like softer lighting. Um, it's gotten really kind of dark because it's raining outside. And so I bring all that up to say you might want a lamp for your book. The other thing is your kid might be an avid reader and enjoy reading. And I sure wish I would have had one of these as a kid. Um, this one is so smooth. Like I just want you to like I'm just barely even touch it. And not only does it move like side to side and up and down, but like you can completely you see what I mean? It can go in these weird configurations. It comes in different colors. I just happen to have it in purple. And look at this, it's got this big, huge clip. So all you have to do is when your kid or you needs a little bit of extra light. So for me, I just got done telling you, I have all these lamps, I have all this soft lighting, and I do not, on a normal basis, 99% of the time, use overhead lighting, especially not in the early morning. So I'm up before the sun comes up. I like to have my own reading time, my own quiet time. And it's really hard for me to read. And so I've taken up a lot of reading ebooks on the iPad because now I can light it up. But now I have this. So watch. The middle switch turns it on. Do you see how much light that added? And you can then change the intensity of the light. Okay, so that just dimmed it a lot. That brightened it. Here, let me turn off the overhead light for just a second. Okay, because now you're really going to take a perspective and see this. Okay, so all I'm doing is watch. I want to make sure you can see that on the screen. See the intensity? So this is changing the intensity. There, slow. We'll call it medium, high, ultra high, super high. Okay, so was that 5? And then, so let me put it back in the medium. Now this other button, you have 3 buttons. Now I'm changing the color tone. Do you see how the whole page changed? I really like this. This is a good one for me. This one is a bit too yellowy orange for me, but this works for different people's eyeballs. Once again, it's about your own eyes and your own preference. And then this last one is the brighter white light. And this is so weird because I had it set to this because this is how I used it this morning. But right now, if I had to pick, I would say this one is much more comfortable for me. So I think it even has to do, once again, age and stage of your eyeballs, what comfort level you have with your eyes, what is going to matter for you. So there are 3 options for the color, the lighting of the color. Then you have the power button to turn it on and off. And it's so simple. It's just, you can see it's just such a gentle touch. And then the intensity of the light. And once again, you can move this around however you need. And it is, like, in my opinion, 100% worth it. Like, this has been a fabulous find for me. And I just cannot believe that here I am in my 40s and I've never had a little light like this to help me. And now it's like I can give this to my kids as well. Now, no, like this is mine. They can get their own. But like I'm saying, this is so good for me to be able to read in the morning or read late at night because those are the 2 times that I get to read and be quiet in the quiet time. But now I have this ability to do this, and then the kids can read in bed without having to turn on overhead lights. They can have, the softness of this, because to me, a lamp, I love my lamps, but I just don't get enough. Once again, my eyes and my stage, I just don't get enough light from lamps that I need this extraness to help me, and it adds ease to my eyes. So I wanted to be able to show you that. I'll turn the bigger light back on so we can see each other better. Okay. So this is, and the brand here is Gritton, if I'm saying that correctly. It does come in different colors. I do have it linked for you if you want to check that out. So that can go on any book. Okay, so if you're using a regular book, that can go into a book, or it can be on that big textbook. You could put it on a notepad, because that's the thing. Like where did I put my notepad? But I was journaling this morning. It was dim in my room. And so I put on my notepad as I was writing, and my eyes felt better. I just want to create eye strain. And I'm at that stage where I don't have to wear glasses unless my eyes get tired. So I just try to avoid my eyes getting fatigued and tired, especially so early in the morning that I'm forced into classes. So this has been, like I said, this has been super helpful and gives me the ability to light up my book. Now, this particular book, I have 2 children that have loved it and 1 that like wants nothing to do with it. It is about a girl, so, I have 3 boys, so there's that element. But this is the classic book, Pollyanna. And the reason that I wanted to share with you Pollyanna as a classic book, first of all, I am all about reading the classics. And my favorite book of all time, I mean, is like a lot of people's favorite book, is Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. But I love to read classic books, and I consider Pollyanna a classic book. It's not written in our everyday today language today. So there are words that are going to come up that your kids are unfamiliar with, and this is the beauty of it. If you are homeschooling and you have the opportunity to pick out which books you're reading, I recommend that you add in a classic book for your kid. Like, we've had so many amazing conversations reading Pollyanna, and that's why I recommend this as a classic book to read, because and I'm not going to even say anything about it. It's heartwarming. It's a great story, and it teaches you about how you think. And she has a great perspective on life. Let's leave it at that. You got to read it to encourage your kids, to help them to have a good, strong perspective on life. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Okay. Let's see what's next. This is one of my favorites. This is for me as much as this is for going through in the middle school. So one reason you might be homeschooling your middle schooler is because you want to have the ability to train them up, raise them up, share with them the insights, the depth of knowledge, all the things that matter to you, which a lot of times has to do with your faith. And so if you read the Bible, can you, first of all, notice this looks like a spiral notebook, but this is the Bible. And so this is the entire New Testament in a spiral bound notebook. Like, that's amazing. And so I have this link for you, and it is fantastic. So look at all of this. You have all of this room, and this is on each and every page like this. You have all of this room to be able to write and take notes. And I like to write, like highlight something and then like draw a little line and reference my note. And then you have all of this section that breaks it down. And so to me, let me find something where I've already highlighted and marked in here. This to me has been so helpful. So I highlight into the main section that I want to remember. And if I even have room, like, look, I even have like a note right there. And then I drew a little line and I made a note off to the side for what I want to remember about this particular part of passage. And it is fabulous. Now let me show you, because this is important. If you highlight or you use a marker, does it go through? So there you go. There's the back side. It's just like barely can see anything. I would say ultimately no. So I'm been very, very pleased with this as I'm going through and being able to, once again, showing you how it highlights and showing you room to take notes. There's obviously no reference. So if you need the reference resources, any of that, but I just think it's fabulous because I am a big note taker and I want to be able to take notes. I want to be able to highlight. I want to be able to have bigger, thicker paper. Like the movement of this to me is so much better than a traditional Bible. So if you are homeschooling and you want to be able to share your faith and you want your kid to be able to like get into the word and engage in it, be able to write in it, like you might want to consider the Spiral Bible. And like I said, this entire thing, this one notebook is the entire New Testament. It comes in different versions. I have the NLT version, but you can get different versions of the New Testament all in one spiral notebook. Okay. Let's do science. Science is hard for me, and science is not something that he gets very excited about. This is the textbook that his homeschool tutorial program recommended. And you can see it's a little bit beat up, carrying around in his backpack. But this is also, speaking of faith, this is a science book, textbook that is written with a faith perspective. So when you talk about creation, you're talking about it from a biblical perspective as God's creation. So we look inside just to give you a glimpse of how this is set up. It's a traditional style textbook. It's just you have the faith perspective that gives you various, like here's a page that's all an experiment, and then it gives you questions at the end of the chapter that you can go through to be able to answer. This is a big textbook, but it's going to cover like a lot. So this is Exploring Creation with General Science. This, I would say, is more for your kid if they're in middle school, they're more advanced in their science concepts, and they're getting ready closer towards the high school range. That's where I would peg this. If your kid is just coming out of elementary school and your kid is starting into middle school science, this series of books that I got is fabulous. And I think I even have a couple more of these. This one is on matter, and you can see, where is it? It's saying it's traditional, so 5th grade to 8th grade. And you can see on the back, it has like the different subjects that they do. This one was ecology and the environment. This is on force and motion, like how we move through space and understanding gravity. Like there's so many. Now, here's why I say that you saw this science book that was more textbook style. Now look at this one. You can see that it's broken up to be more workbook style, more engaging. This is why somebody who is not as strong an independent learner would probably struggle with the bigger textbook on science, but might do better here. And then you can help to guide them. Once again, however you set up your homeschool elements. And I said element because I just read element on the page, but how you set up your homeschool and how you know that your kid learns best. Homeschooling can have many challenges. It can be the most amazing thing, and I don't regret it at all. I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to spend so much time with him throughout his middle school, those 3 years of middle school. And we are going to continue to homeschool into high school. He is down for it. He's like, no, I do not want to go to that big high school. He wants to homeschool, and he's met his community of other homeschooling students, and he has his collective. But I know, and I think now he better understands too, that I don't have all the answers. That's a tough one. When your kid goes from like, oh, mommy, you're the smartest, you're the most wonderful, and I want to give you all the hugs, to like, no more hugs right now. And mom, I don't know that you know much, like, and questioning everything. Like it can be a challenge to be still a homeschool mama, but like we commit to it for more than just me as the subject expert. I mean, in elementary, it's easier to be the stuff on too much. There are so many great resources. This is just a small sampling of the resources that exist. There are even homeschool conferences where I learned about all these different textbook lines and different things that you can do and get a hold of. There's so many different tutorials popping up around the country in all of these different states. Yeah. And on the other hand, you can, visit your local library, and there's so many great resources that are there. There's so much to learn. And of course, we have the internet. Wherever you're at, you're doing an amazing thing. Parenting, period. And then choosing then to homeschool for whatever reason it matters to you, knowing why it matters to you and how you're going to commit to that, because there are going to be days when it's a struggle. You just remember you're a big reason friend. I encourage you. I wish you all the very best in your homeschooling journey. Bye-bye.